All right, guys, we're under the gun right now if we want to make it to LS Fest on time. And I think we're going to make it. That's not really a concern, but there is a few things left to do. Right now, it's Tuesday morning at 8:45. I'm in the middle of retuning the truck because I just swapped in a different computer, or no, not a different computer, a different operating system into my computer and doing a flex fuel conversion. That'll allow me to run E85 fuel, and that'll allow me to put a whole bunch more timing in this thing to make a whole lot more power. Because right now, on 91 octane, the hardest I've dared to push this thing in terms of timing is about 12 degrees. And it probably could take maybe a little bit more, but this was actually something that was sort of kind of on my radar, but when I realized I ordered the stuff to do it and I hadn't planned on doing it before LS Fest, but I was like, why not? You know, let's put some timing in this thing and let's make it really rip. And I'm probably going to throw about 10 more degrees of timing at it. E85 is, I don't know what the equivalent is, but it's like 100 or 105 or 110 octane or something ridiculous like that. There is one E85 station here in Utah, and it just so happens to be about 20 to 30 minutes from the house, so I'm kind of silly if I don't take advantage of that, because ethanol, it burns cooler, it's a higher octane, it does require more fuel, but I do have a 450 liter per hour pump and 850 cc injector. So I should have enough fuel system to keep up with E85 on the boost level that we're at right now. If I put in a bigger motor, or if I did, you know, airflow mods like cylinder heads, pulleyed it up and things like that, I may have to add a second fuel pump or bigger injectors. But for now, we should be golden. I just needed to add a few things to the truck. Flex fuel sensor, different operating system, and so on. And I'll get into all that detail in just a second. But first, I got to reveal to you guys the wrap that we chose and the design that we went with on this truck, because it was black last time you guys saw it. We're finishing up like a million things at once, so this video is going to be a lot of talking, but we just finished up the all-wheel drive conversion. We just had the truck wrapped. I am in the middle of and almost done doing the flex fuel conversion. And let's see, I got to leave for Las Vegas Thursday morning. So yeah, a lot going on, but this is the wrap that we did. I told you guys this was like a throwback to my very first truck. I had a 76 C10 that was a similar color of orange. I went with Tangier orange, which was like a Land Rover color, but this is not the same. I mean, it's a wrap, so they only have a few options you can choose from, but this is my absolute favorite part right here, this graphic that we did on the hood. It's simple, it's a panel, it just says supercharged on there. I kind of told you guys I wanted to do like a factory sort of look, and yeah, I know they didn't paint any of these Stepsides this shade of orange, but I just kind of like it. I mean, I would have preferred to have an HD hood, but I haven't found one. But with the chrome deleted and turned orange, I really like how it turned out. Like, it even makes the faded headlights look not quite so bad. But yeah, all the chrome on the truck is now orange. So the strip in the center of the grille, the bumper, the little mirrors, of course, all the black stuff I left black, because to me, orange and black just go good together. I didn't wrap the inside of the bed, obviously, because you don't do that. But other than that, yeah, all the chrome is now orange. That's the rear bumper right there. And I am digging the look of this truck. The wheels, I like the wheels, but I could probably do something a little better with those in the future. But for now, this is as good as it's going to get. This is the factory COPO truck. This is like the finished product, guys. We have, you know, it's a factory truck. Obviously, they made it, but it has a LSA Supercharger from a later model Chevy. It has a all-wheel drive system from a GMC Yukon. It's going to have a 4L80 very soon from a different vehicle, but now we have a flex fuel operating system and sensors from other GM vehicles as well. So this is kind of like my whole vision kind of coming together. I'm really, really excited about the color. It makes it stand out. It makes it pop. And it just makes it look cool. Plus, I've always liked orange. This will be the third orange truck that I've built. The middle one, the Duramax, I really wish I could have owned that one, but it didn't work out. But now I have this. So I'm really happy. Now let's talk about flex fuel real quick. So I think, you know, in this ramble-a-thon, I might have already mentioned this, but the reason why I'm going with E85 is because it's basically sort of kind of like a race fuel. It has a really high octane when compared to gasoline. It runs cooler, which will help a lot on a supercharger or any forced induction application, but it runs cooler, has a higher octane, and it's very cheap compared to like distilled racing fuel. So in order to make it work on this year of truck, it's actually quite simple. Originally, I had went out and bought a different PCM. This is a P59, and because we have a drive-by cable operating system, there's a handful of PCMs that'll work. And if you believe what you read on the internet, this service number and hardware number is a PCM that will work with the drive-by cable. It has all the drivers inside for the idle air control motor and stuff like that. That one will have, or that one can have, a 3-bar flex fuel operating system. Now 3-bar basically means it has 1 bar or 1 atmosphere in the map of vacuum. So it goes from 0 to about 105 kPa. And then there's about 105 to 210. And then the 3rd bar is like what, 210 to 315. So that's, in terms of boost pressure, that's basically 2 atmospheres of positive pressure. So about 28, 26 PSI boost, somewhere in there is what that PCM will work with. Now, I know you can convert the, and it might be plug and play. You can actually plug this into the wiring harness that I have, but I'm not sure on the specifics of that just yet. And I didn't have time to do the research and actually do it. But I just so happen to have, in fact, already licensed to me a 2002 Chevy Tahoe flex fuel operating system. And that will work with the P01 or the 0411 PCM that the truck already had in it. The only disadvantage to that is it's a 2-bar operating system, which means it'll go from 1 atmosphere of vacuum and 1 atmosphere of boost. So it'll work up to about, let's see, it goes to 210 kPa. Right now my boost gauge shows about 14 PSI of boost, but about 185 kPa. So I've got about, if I can do quick math, like 20, 25 kPa left or something like that. So it'll work perfect for me now. It's a flex fuel OS. I did have to add the flex fuel sensor and some wiring, so I'll show you that real quick. This right here is a factory GM Continental flex fuel sensor right there. I built a little bracket to attach it to the brake booster. This is in the return line of the regulator, so it comes, let's see, it comes out of the regulator, it flows through the flex fuel sensor, and then it returns back into the line all the way back to the tank. I'm not entirely crazy about the location. I think it'll work just fine. It's not like it's really close to any major sources of heat, but it's just more fuel line up here, although there's really no other great option to mount the thing. So that's the fuel side of the things. Basically, this is a sensor that measures how much alcohol or ethanol content is in the fuel that you put in the tank. We had to run a little bit of wiring. There's 3 wires here. One of them goes to the PCM. Once again, this is my original PCM. There's no other modifications other than 1 pin being added, and then from there on that guy you could add 1 ground and 1 12-volt power supply, and then you get a flash in the different operating system. Let's see, oh, we're zoomed out, cancel tracking. Anyway, so I do have a 2002 Tahoe OS flashed in 2-bar. I kind of explained that. I did have to do a little bit of retuning because I don't know why, to be perfectly honest, but I copy and pasted like all of my existing tables over. Not all of them directly copy and paste. I got to start up and it actually idled pretty good, but for some reason, like the fueling was a fair amount off, like 15 to 20% in some areas. I don't know why. I think it could have to do with the fact that when you tune the stock ECM, it has like you have to enter the stoichiometric ratio of whatever fuel you're using. And my assumption is that the stoic that we put in might have been a little different from the pump fuel that I was using. So now that it actually knows precisely what the stoic, or rather what the alcohol content is, and in effect, it knows what the stoic ratio is. Maybe that threw it off. I don't know. I'm not a tuner. I owe a huge thanks to Matt Sanford from Boost Addicts in, I think, Smyrna, Tennessee. He has been very gracious and patient with me. I've had a million questions through this process. So if you guys need anything tuned, and if you're anywhere near Tennessee, hit up Boost Addicts. Those guys are awesome, and Matt is like a whiz when it comes to tuning. So anyway, I cannot thank you enough, Matt. Thank you so much. But we are running pretty good. I think I did like 3 or 4 revisions of the VE table using the wideband to make the corrections. I have my fueling kind of back to where it was before. And the sensor now reads about 6% alcohol content. So I didn't make any changes to the fuel in the tank before I actually did the testing because I wanted to eliminate as many variables as possible. So now it's time to actually add in the E85. So I went to a station the other day. You're probably supposed to put it in the yellow can, but there's E85 in that. And then I also bought one of those little tester kits. Basically, this is just like a little bottle. You put some water in there, you fill the rest with fuel, you shake it up, and you let it do its thing. And if we can get a zoom in on there, basically it's about between 70 and 75% Probably closer to 70% now. So about 70% ethanol in this fuel that I bought, which is pretty good because a lot of times it can be as high as 85, but it can be lower as well. So the great thing about a flex fuel conversion, again, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but we're running out of time. The great thing about a flex fuel conversion with the sensor like that is you can put whatever fuel, ethanol or gasoline in the tank that you want, and the computer will calibrate for the stoic ratio of the fuel mixture, and it can be a blend, remember, it doesn't have to be all E85, and it'll adjust the timing accordingly. So the way I have this set up right now, on pump gas, I have about a maximum of 12 degrees of timing, which is not a lot, but that's about as far as I felt comfortable pushing it with the 91 octane that we have here and the inlet air temps of the blower and stuff like that. With E85, if it's full 85% alcohol, it'll add about 10 more degrees of timing, so like 20 to 22. So it's about 20 at peak torque, 22 at as the RPMs climb up beyond that. So that should add a lot more horsepower, probably another 50 or possibly even more than that, 100. I don't know, but I do know that ethanol is a great fuel, has a lot of octane, it has some cooling abilities. So yeah, that's why you see all like the Hellcat guys and supercharger guys go with E85 so often. You do need a bigger fuel system, but I already have 850cc injectors and a 450 liter per hour pump in the tank. So for the power level that we're at right now, we should be golden in terms of like fuel system capacity. So enough rambling, let me pour in the ethanol. I'll go for a quick drive. I'll make sure that the sensor actually updates and shows the new percentage of alcohol content. Maybe we'll do a quick rip, and then I've got to like clean up the shop, load up the trailer, and hit the road. All right, so far everything seems to be doing pretty much what I would expect. The tank was almost empty on the gauge, but there's probably still at least 4, 5, 6 gallons in there. So by adding 5 gallons of E85, I would expect, well, E85, that was at about 70% alcohol. I would expect about half that, so 35 to 45%. So I started the thing up, and almost instantly it jumped from 6 to 9% alcohol. And it's just been sitting here idling for a minute or two, and it's, I think, doing what it should. So right now we're up to 41.6% alcohol. So that means the sensor's doing its job. The computer knows there's alcohol in the fuel. In terms of the wideband, if the way I understand this correctly, the wideband is still going to display the air-fuel ratio in a gasoline scale, where gasoline has a stoic of about 14.7 to 1, which is kind of what we're targeting at idle. And under power enrichment, it'll be in the low 11s. So even though the stoichiometric ratio of E85 is like 8 or 9 to 1, the wideband is still going to be displaying air-fuel ratio in a gasoline scale, but it's going to be outputting the lambda value or the equivalence ratio value directly in the computer. So we don't have to make any corrections. It's just that the wideband is going to continue to display numbers that, which, to be perfectly honest with, I'm more familiar with the wideband reading in the gasoline scale anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, so far it appears that this E85 conversion is a success. But now what I've got to do is go for a quick drive. I'll do some logging. I will top off the rest of the tank because we're still, let's see, it still shows just over a quarter of a tank. So we'll top it off. I do need to grab a couple of extras because I don't think you can actually get E85 in Vegas, or I haven't looked, I don't know. But I'm going to bring a couple extra just in case. So far so good. Oh, even better, we're up to 43.1%. we're on our way to the E85 station, just kind of keeping an eye on the fuel trims. And so far, everything seems to be like, it's not perfect, but it's within like, everything's kind of within plus or minus 6 or 7. So for a tune that I'm still kind of trying to dial in, I'm really happy with it. This is probably like 20 minutes later, I did a little bit of a pull, and I noticed it's already added like 3 or 4 degrees of timing, even though we're only at, it's kind of averaged out to about 40% ethanol content. So right now I've got a quarter tank. I'm going to fill up the rest of the way with E85. That should definitely increase that to at least 60, hopefully 70 for the whole tank. But yeah, I'm excited about it. Just a few notes about E85 in general. It does require a lot more fuel. I sort of kind of covered that, but in the real world, your driving conditions, you will get worse fuel mileage when you have E85, but normally the fuel's cheaper here. It's actually the same exact cost as 87, but I'm just thankful we can get it. You gotta make sure your fuel lines and stuff are gonna be able to handle E85. It's kind of a corrosive fuel. I suppose if you're gonna store a vehicle long term, like you probably want to run some regular gasoline through it or put some Sta-Bil or something in there, because it does degrade over time. Make sure your fuel lines are rated for ethanol. I think I mentioned that already. But yeah, so far so good. Air fuels are doing what they're supposed to. The computer knows ethanol's in the tank. I'm really happy. Let's go top it off, and then we'll do a quick wide open throttle rev. E85. Dang. All right, we got time for one quick pull. Quick. Something weird happened though there at first when I took off. It felt like the transmission was in second gear or something almost. Don't know what that was about. I did 1 or 2 pulls from a dig and I quickly realized that something was not right with the truck. At first my initial hunch was like, okay, something's going on weird with the transmission, but as soon as I pulled a log, I realized the transmission is fine. It's actually the engine, and not like a bad mechanical thing, but it's just a calibration error with torque management. Basically what was happening, as soon as I would flat foot it from a dead stop, torque management kicks in and it will pull away about 26.5 degrees of timing. So instead of the spark occurring where it was supposed to, about 20 degrees before top dead center, the spark would happen about like 8 or 10 degrees after top dead center, which means we lose a ton of power, and that would happen for like probably 2 or 3 seconds, and the timing would slowly be brought back in as the speed comes up. It didn't do that on the old operating system, and it turns out the Tahoe Flex Fuel OS has quite a few different parameters for torque management that the Silverado operating system does not have. Now, I already went through and I raised most of the parameters, but there were a few more that I missed. And after a couple phone calls to Matt, we figured out the ones that were causing the problem from a dead stop were transmission input max, torque, front prop shaft, output max, rear prop shaft, output max, maybe one other. I think there's like 4 in that little section. But basically, once we raise the value of those 4 parameters, we have maximum timing. And let me tell you what, guys, this little orange truck right here is one spicy unit. Like, it'll chirp all 3 tires, well, 3 out of the 4 tires from a dead stop. No brake boosting, just come to a complete stop, flat foot it. Like, boost comes up instantly, and when you combine the boost with the gears, with the torque converter, like, this thing is a rocket ship. And I dare say, it's the quickest truck that I've built that I personally own, and maybe built, period. But it's not like it's the fastest thing in the world, but it's really, really a blast, and I can't wait to get it out on the track. If you guys are at LS Fest and you want to check the truck out, I believe we're going to be set up in the Boost District booth. There's a couple other LSA Supercharged cars down there. So check it out if you want to see it. We're going to be running the quarter mile, the autocross. I think they do a speed stop challenge, and there's a show and shine, which, I don't know, maybe we'll clean it up a little bit and put it in there as well. So, oh, I was going to give you just a couple of quick footnotes if you want to do like a flex fuel install on your own, because it's fairly simple. You're going to have, you know, HP tuners or EFI live, but in terms of the mechanical or the electronic install rather, the blue connector on the PCM, pin 56, is where the flex fuel wire goes in. And then on the flex fuel sensor itself, there's 3 wires you got to deal with. A 12 volt, that's pink, that gets switched. A black wire obviously goes right to ground, and then the white signal wire is the one that goes up to blue 56. Remember, you can also do this, and it might be more advantageous to do this on a P59 PCM, but of course I have a P01 ECM and it works just great. And then, oh, there's one more thing I was going to mention. I will put a link for the little ethanol tester bottle in the description below. I think it was like 10 bucks, but you know, this is kind of a nice tool to have if you're going to be running ethanol, because it'll tell you exactly what the ethanol content is, just kind of as like a, I don't know, additional backup, I guess, against the flex fuel sensor that's in the truck. So after today, I am frustrated with tuning. I am a believer in E85. I love this truck. I love the color. I love the gearing, and I am really pumped to get it on the track. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And next time you see this thing, it'll be on the track down in Las Vegas.